Hi, this is Brenda, and I will start by saying that what I'm trying to do here is to make a video article, and I'll be very, very honest. Um, this is way outside my comfort zone. I'm certainly not somebody that is very technologically savvy. You can see that by the low quality film you're looking at. And I would much rather be writing than speaking on this video. But I've got some information that I'd like to share with everybody. And I think the best way to get it out there is to do this video. So this video and the information in it is intended for those who are interested and for those who have been following the water department situation in the town of Machias. So for many months now, I've been paying attention. I've been writing reports, and I've been gathering documents and studying them, and trying to wrap my head around what's going on in the town of Machias. And so what I've done is I've taken all of the data that I've accumulated, and I've compiled it from the documents. I've taken it and I've compiled it into charts and things like that, that will hopefully make it easier to understand. And I'd like to share that with you guys. What I'm going to do is flip over to my screen in a minute and share with you a slideshow to guide the conversation. And the slideshow will have kind of two parts to it. The first half will be talking about the background of the situation, and then the second half will be going through the data. So let me switch to my screen, and hopefully I'll get this figured out. I am not tech savvy at all. Um, I don't enjoy it. I don't do well with it. I don't have good technique, but here we are. Let's see what we can do. So the first thing I want to share with you is a website that I have where I just store a lot of the articles that I've written and the things that I'm researching. And I made a page where I'm just storing the documents that I have on the town of Machias that I received through FOIA, through FOIL. And so these are my primary source documents, and I just want you guys to know that they're here. You're welcome to review them. I will make sure to include this link with the link of the video so that you can have access to all of my primary sources, which will include information from Open Book New York as well as from the town of Machias itself. I do want to point out here, right here, the New York State Comptroller's 2021 audit of the town. That's not actually part of this video article that I'm doing right now, but I wanted to show you that it's there so that if you want to, you can come back and check it out. It's interesting to look at, I will say. All right, so let me go right here at the top. I've got a slide presentation, and this will help us to have our conversation and hopefully keep me on track and out of going down rabbit holes. All right, so the title of this video article is Diving into the Data, an Analysis of the Machias Water Department. Guess I'm going to have to keep moving myself here. So let's start with some background. So the water department comes under scrutiny. So this is going to happen after I've been reporting on the town for about a year. So I started reporting in the town of Machias in September of 2022. And at that time, the town board was composed of Supervisor Steve Cornwall and Councilman Bob Shank, Tom Reese, Frank Bork, Bob Green, and the town clerk, Rebecca. And at that point, at that point and now, throughout these years, the town officials, whenever they spoke of the water department, they always spoke of it as losing money. Members of the general public were certainly given the impression that the department was not financially sound. I'll even give you some quotes. So Tom Reese referred to it as, quote, a deficit, not an asset, during the July 2024 meeting. And he said that the department was, quote, in the hole during the May 2025 meeting. And also during that meeting, the town clerk referred to the water district as, quote, limping along. for many years, at least 10, and in some cases, over 15, water bills had been estimated for users in the water district because the meters were not working properly. And so I'm not sure when the capital project to replace the meters would have been initiated. It appears maybe that came along with like the ARPA funds, the COVID money and stuff. But in either case, in 2023, brand new meters had been installed and the system was set to go online with these new meters. And so that happened in 2023. And again, prior to that, for well over 10 years, people's bills, usage, water usage had been estimated. So I don't know the technology, but the way that the town talks about it, it sounds like when they hooked up the new meters, they were able to tell what the old meters had read and what the current reading was. And so if the estimate had been low for those 10 to 15 years, some people ended up getting surprisingly large bills for the quarter. And three of them came in September 2023 to the town board meeting and spoke about this and how surprised they were and how unhappy they were about it and how difficult this was for them financially. I would imagine if three people came in person, that probably the department was receiving phone calls of a similar nature as well. But we'll focus on these three residents. One of them spoke of getting a quarterly water bill for $3,000. Another a quarterly water bill of $4,800, and another a quarterly water bill of $5,067. So the board listened to these users in the water district. They did not come up with a decision to do anything during the public hearing. Instead, they met in executive session to discuss it. The outcome is unknown. I don't know exactly what would have happened in each of these cases. There is nothing more in the public record on it. I imagine we could FOIL and get that information of the bills to see if there was any resolution. But at this point, there's no public record of it. Okay, if I can figure out how to advance my slides. Here we go. All right. So the next thing that happens is in November of 2023, Ron Allman, the director from Otisega, attended a town board meeting, and he came with a quarterly bill that he had received that had surged to $8,000. So Otisega got a bill for $8,000. They paid it. But then Allman came to the town board meeting because he wasn't sure what was going on, and he wanted to find out how this bill had been calculated, if this was a one-time thing, if this was, what's happening here. So when he came, he brought documentation showing that in the past, in 2021 and 2022 in particular, Otisega's annual water bills were $5,700 and $5,000 respectively. So for the whole year, that's what they were paying in 2021 and 2022. The way it was left at that meeting, the town officials said that they would get back to Allman. Now, meanwhile, in January of 2024, the composition of the board changed. The November 2023 general election, Josh Dusterhuss became the supervisor of the town, replacing Steve Cornwall, and Nick Glazner was elected councilman to fill Bob Green's seat. Now, Tom Reese, Bob Shank, and Frank Bork remained on the board, as did Rebecca as the clerk. All right, so let's fast forward to July 2024. Apparently, the issue with Otisega had not yet been resolved. So at the July 2024 meeting, the attorney for Otisega, David White, attended, and he asked the board members to explain the changes that had been developed that was causing the quarterly water bills for Otisega to be so substantially higher. So he said that they had received no prior notification of any changes in how the bills were being calculated. And they weren't sure what the formula was. And so he was requesting the opportunity to sit down with the town attorney and to review that formula and to try to negotiate an agreement. Okay, so a lot of time goes by. We go from July of 2024 all the way to March of 2025 without hearing anything more at the town board meetings, really, about the situation with Otisega. And what was going on behind the scenes this whole time was that the attorney for the town, Joel Kurtzholz, and the attorney for Otisega, David White, were talking to one another, negotiating, coming up with a plan to hopefully resolve this situation in a way that would work for everybody involved. So the attorneys reached an agreement. And the town's attorney, Joel Kurtzholz, he drafted the resolution expressing this agreement. And the plan was to have it presented and discussed at the March 17th, 2025 board meeting. It was, kind of expected that the resolution would pass. There hadn't been any real public indications, anyhow, that any of the board members were going to, be opposed to this. But the resolution didn't pass. So, to the surprise of Supervisor Dusterhuss and the surprise of Councilman Glazner, and to the surprise of Attorney White, and I imagine probably to the surprise of the town's attorney Kurtzholz, also, three of the councilmen, Reese, Shank, and Bork, voted no. They opposed the resolution. So the resolution failed, and therefore there was no agreement reached between the town and Otisega. At this point during the meeting, Supervisor Dusterhuss expressed concern that the town board was going back on its word and that this was not a good thing. Councilman Bork brought up a good point. He said that he couldn't go along with the agreement unless the town's water law was changed, because he felt that the proper way to do this would be to actually amend the water law to make it, more formal and just kind of more probably the way that it should be done. Very reasonable thing to say. The problem was, and Councilman Glazner touched on this when he pointed out that, the negotiations had been going on for 6 months. Why hadn't Bork brought this up during way earlier than March of 2025? There had been 6 months of negotiations happening. It seemed a little odd to wait until your attorney has put in time and probably charged you some hours worth of work to create a resolution that he is comfortable with as a legal counselor. And at the last minute, it's opposed and it fails. Then another concern at the March 17th meeting was that Councilman Reese was very unprofessional and extremely disrespectful to Otisega, and honestly to another member of the community that night. Unfortunately, the video of this meeting no longer exists. The clerk has said that the video has been lost. But there was another resident, Brenda Morgan, who spoke at this meeting as well. And when she appeared on the on the video, Tom Reese was participating remotely. He actually said a 4-letter word, and I don't know that it was towards her. It might have been towards something else because he was virtual. I don't know what was going on in his location, but it did seem strange. And anyhow, so the video is missing, or it's lost. It didn't get, I don't know what happened to it. I just know that the clerk said it's lost. and unavailable. But anyhow, I digress. The Councilman Reese's behavior towards Otisega was very unprofessional. I'm going to share a quote with you. He accused them of not paying their fair share for water. And he said, quote, "You don't do a lot for Machias. Believe me, buddy. Believe me. You don't serve alcohol on your premises. I've talked to the girls at Lil's. So that's no revenue for that store. And most of the people bring their own food. No revenue from you. Also, do you guys make any donations to the fire company or to the library?" Unquote. Now, it does appear, not that it's actually relevant, but it does appear that Otisega has actually made donations to the fire company. We don't really need to get into that because that's not even relevant. The thing that's relevant here is that we have a town official who is communicating to people in that town, an organization in that town, and the people of that organization in the town, that in order to be treated basically with respect and fairness at the town board meeting, they're expected to contribute to organizations that the town board member feels they should contribute to. It's not for a town board member cannot require an individual or an organization to contribute or participate in charitable contributions in order to receive the services of the town or to be treated fairly by the town. So it was a very it was not something that you would normally expect a town official to say because it's just not a legal thing to be pursuing. Anyhow, at the next meeting, Reese did actually offer an apology. It was, one of those half-hearted types of apologies, where he basically said, I'm sorry to anybody that misunderstood my comments. At least that's the way the apology sounded to me. All right, so let's go on to the next meeting. Well, before we get there, let me talk about, at this point, as I'm watching all of this, thinking about it, I'm thinking this just seems very strange. The attorneys, the attorney for the town, the attorney for Otisega were in agreement. They had spent months of negotiations coming to this agreement and this resolution. The town supervisor was in agreement and was actually under the impression that the agreement would be approved. And so I'm thinking, is this really about Otisega? Because it seemed like something else was going on here. And I'm wondering, is this no vote an attempt to undermine Dusterhuss and maybe punish Otisega for whatever thing they might feel Otisega needs to be punished for? I didn't know. It just seemed very odd. That nasty tone taken by Reese, it was both very unnecessary, but also indicative, it seemed, of some other underlying issue of which I have no knowledge of what that is. So the bottom line is, the question that arose was, what is really going on here? So we move into May. May 19th, 2025, there's a public hearing scheduled to review the amendment to the water law in the town of Machias. The amendments were crafted by Joel Kurtholz, the town attorney, and they were provided to the board members. And just a reminder that Frank Bork had brought up the idea of, let's change the water law. If we're really going to do this agreement, the water law should, be updated to reflect this. Great idea. So Kurtholz did what he was asked to do. He developed an amended law that made two special categories of users. These are very unique entities, very different from residential users. You've got the category of nursing home, a high water usage facility with many, many individual units. Each room would be considered a unit. And then you've got the campgrounds, a seasonal situation, much lower use. Every single campground, according to the clerk, is considered a unit. So these are very unique entities, and the attorney for the town made two different categories that would be granted a discounted rate. One category was nursing home, that would affect the Pines. The other category was campgrounds, that would affect Otisega. Now, it is fine to do this. Municipal water districts are allowed to create such discounts. Now, it's rare for a campground to be located within a water district, but there is one on Grand Island, and the clerk knows this because she is the one that actually brought up the fact that there is a campground on Long Island. She stopped talking about it though. I imagine when she realized that this campground actually is under a special rate category on Grand Island. So I'm just pointing out that it's not unusual to give special rates to unique users. That is allowed. It's not uncommon. And there actually is an example somewhat close to Machias, Grand Island, for which this is happening. So here we go. We've got this amended law created by the town attorney at the town's request, and he completes it and he forwards it on to the town board. And it was expected that this would be discussed and probably adopted. However, something happened prior to the public hearing. Prior to the public hearing on May 19th, Councilman Reese, Shank, and Bork, and most likely with the assistance of the clerk, edited the draft law provided to the town by the town's attorney. References to campgrounds were removed. The special provision for the nursing home remained. Now, these edits made by Reese, Shank, and Bork were temporarily posted on the town clerk of Machias's Facebook page. And you can see a screenshot of part of what was posted is here. And it was removed relatively quickly. I would assume that probably the town's attorney got wind that it was up there. And my guess is, I don't have evidence, but my guess is that he contacted the clerk and said to get that down, and it was removed. But you can see that at the top of the document, I can't see it. I've got to move this down here. I've got a problem on my well, I'm having a hard time seeing it because it's covered up by a menu bar here for me. Anyhow, it does say something there, if I can recall, the majority of the board, the things in red represent, quote, the majority of the board's edits that they were making. So Reese, Shank, and Bork. This is really concerning. I'm going to go to the next slide and we'll talk about why this is concerning. All right, we'll talk about this in a minute. The reason that this is concerning is that it is illegal for a town board or for any board, really a public board, to conduct business and to make business decisions for the town unless there is an option for the public to attend and participate and public notice is given. So if these board members had met, if they had sat down, the three of them, and talked about this and made these edits, or if they had a three-way conference call, there could be some possible problems here with them violating open meetings laws, that perhaps they had met to conduct town business without publishing a public notice and without making minutes available and without allowing public access. So I foiled to find out if they, how did they accomplish this? And it appears that they never met or had a three-way conference. What I was told was that one talked to the other, and then another talked to another, and then somebody talked to Rebecca, and then this, like they all were just talking individually one to another. And somehow this decision got made to edit the law provided to them by the town's attorney. And so that happened. They completely denied that they ever met with a quorum, as a quorum, and conducted town business. I have no evidence that they did, so we have to say they didn't. So it appears that I don't have evidence that they violated the letter of the open meetings law, but boy, it sure has the feel of a violation of the spirit of it for sure. Anyhow, I foiled the town through the clerk because that's what you're supposed to do, asking for any types of communications I could get at all. So if you look at the foil, it's posted here that I'm looking for emails and texts and phone logs and notes that might have been kept from conversations that were had and any inter-office communications. And the clerk's response is the handwritten words. And you can see at the top, she basically tells me that no records exist, that all communication was verbal. Okay, so there's a denial that any records exist. What can you do? I guess part of me kind of doubts that, but what can I do? How do you, when you're told this, like, how do you prove that that's not actually true? It's tricky stuff. But let's take a minute and look at the clerk's words written at the bottom where it says communication was between the board and attorney and not with me. So if you notice, the second part of the foil was I wanted to have information, emails of how did the attorney communicate with the town about this. And because my guess is that the attorney was probably not really happy with what was going on here. How do I know? Because I'm told that I didn't get anything. But anyhow, I'm suspicious about that. I'd like to find out. So I send this foil asking for these communications. And what the clerk tells me is that the communication was not between her and the attorney. Now, that really doesn't matter. I was foiling the town. She is acting in the capacity as the FOIL officer for the town. So her job as FOIL officer, if that is her job, is to find those documents from the town officials, not just from her. So I don't know if she was just trying to, think she could, fool me, or if this is what she really thinks. I would hope not. I don't know which one I hope not for. Anyhow, it's a strange argument, but it gets even stranger because then she says, I don't have the emails because my server is very small. Now, sorry about your server being small, but this is not an approved reason that FOIL requests can be ignored or declined or denied. And so it's not good. Okay. Ultimately, what happened on May 19th was that the town board passed the edited amended water law. So in other words, they rejected their own attorney's recommended law and through pre-public hearing edits created their own. They did so without including Dusterhuss or Glazner in the conversation. Reese, Schenk, and Bork voted in favor of this. Dusterhuss and Glazner opposed. Now this, let me move myself again. This all seems so strange to me. It no longer seemed like a specific situation about a problem between a town board and Otsego, a campground. It now seemed to be about a town board acting strangely. And so this provoked questions and ultimately numerous FOIL requests. Okay, my computer's froze. Okay, that's not where I want to be, is it? Yeah, okay. So the questions that were provoked would have included these. Or why was the special rate deleted for campgrounds? Was any of this arbitrary and capricious? Why were Dusterhuss and Glazner excluded? Had the three board members, Reese, Schenk, and Bork, illegally conducted business? What did Kurtzholz, the town's attorney, think of the changes made to the law that he had drafted? I did reach out to Mr. Kurtzholz a number of times, and I did not hear back from him. So he was very loyal to the town, which was nice of him. And then finally, why was the clerk trying to throw blame on Otisega for higher bills for other customers? So let me explain this one. In the May 19th meeting, um, Rebecca was very honest in saying that, hey, listen, there's going to be a lot of people in town that are not going to be happy with their new water bills. They're going to be paying more. And she said, it's because I audited the whole water district. And the reason I audited the whole water district is because Otisega wanted their situation audited. Therefore, blame Otisega. That was the message that came across, or that she seemed to be like she was trying to come across with, that if you're unhappy with your higher water bills, you can blame Otisega for this. So it's really, it seemed like this attempt to stir division within the community. I'm not saying that that's what they were doing. How do I know? Right? I don't know. But certainly the actions that they took, you know, can cause that to happen. And they weren't very thoughtful actions for sure. Come on, computer. All right, is that right? Okay. So it's going to get weirder. Um, After that May 19th meeting, the clerk, Rebecca, posted an unprofessional message on the Town Clerk of Machias, New York Facebook page. Now, this was posted on June 17th, 2025. Now, I'm going to read it, and you're going to see that I highlighted certain parts of it. And then I also included text in red that represents the questions I would have as I read this strange post, which is still, the last I checked, up on the town clerk of Machias Facebook page. So let's go through this. With all of the misunderstandings regarding the proposed change to the water law and the proposed discount for the water at the campground at Otisega, I wanted to clarify some things. After discussion with a lawyer specializing in municipal law. So who is this lawyer? I did FOIL to try to find that out. I didn't get anywhere, but so I don't know who the lawyer was. So after talking to this lawyer, she writes, it is illegal for the town board to give a discount to Otisega for their water. New York State requires that discounts must be justified and not violate regulations regarding public funds and fair treatment of all customers. There is no legal justification for the proposed discount. Let me just stop here again and remind everybody that discounts in special categories are not uncommon in municipal water districts. So I'm not sure how illegal. I mean, obviously, they've got to be set up with thought, and you've got to be able to justify that you're doing it fairly, that you're not giving like your brother-in-law some sort of a break, right? So of course that would be illegal. This doesn't seem to be the case. So anyhow, I'll go on. I think it is important to note that giving a discount at this particular time, when the water district is facing a crisis and possible huge financial shortfalls from mandatory infrastructure upgrades and regulatory requirements to fix the ongoing water quality violations, would be complete mismanagement by the town board. So just note again here, these are public statements indicating just this severe financial distress in the water district. She goes on, the board would be illegally offering public funds from the water district to Otisega in the form of a discount. Now think about this for a minute, everybody. If what she's saying here is true, it would be illegal to give a discount to make a special category for a campground. Is it not also true that offering the Pines, offering nursing homes a special category, the Pines a discount, wouldn't that be just as illegal? I'm not opposed to the Pines getting a discount here. They should. I'm just opposed to how this seems to be kind of arbitrarily handled between these two entities, with one being treated one way and another being treated another way. And then the clerk saying that it's illegal to offer a discount. So the discount to the low water user is denied, while the discount to the high usage user is approved. It just seems unfair. All right, so we'll continue. They, meaning the town board, are responsible for maintaining the financial stability of the water district and would be doing the exact opposite. The town board was told that if they move forward with this discount, the water district would proceed forward with legal action against the town board for mismanagement of the water district and illegal use of public funds for a private entity. All right, so I'm no attorney, and maybe this lawyer specializing in municipal law that the clerk was consulting with knows what he's talking about. But I just have a question. Can a town sue itself? A municipal water district is operated by the town. The town, it is part of the town. So the water district of Machias is part of the town of Machias, is government. So can a town sue itself? Does the municipal water district of Machias have standing to go into a court of law and sue the town? I kind of doubt it. Again, I'm not an attorney, but it's a question worth asking. So we'll continue. So the majority of the town board has decided to step away from this issue at this time. That would mean Reese, Shank, and Bork. They're stepping away. But should they choose to revisit it, now that would be Dusterhuss and Glazner. So she's got two different groups of people in this one sentence, which is not a good sentence. So we've got the majority of the town board, that's Reese, Shank, and Bork, stepping away from this issue. But should they, that would mean Dusterhuss and Glazner, choose to revisit it, here comes the threat. The water district will immediately have to proceed with legal action for mismanagement of water district funds in accordance with New York state law. Okay, so number one, what New York state law? Let's cite it. Okay, you know so much, let's cite it. Number two, who is making this decision? And number three, who's running the show in the town of Machias, where a town is threatening to sue itself? Oh, come on, computer, driving me crazy. All right, because the behavior of these town officials seemed arbitrary, punitive, unreasonable, and strange, I started to foil for documents. So I foiled for financial records, annual financial reports, water usage, bills. In response, I did receive digital copies of the water usage and of the Pines billing. And then regarding financial records, I'll show you what I received. Maybe if I can get my, come on, computer. Went back. Wait. All right, this is the funny part, me trying to figure out technology. All right, so this is what I originally received when I requested financial records. Now, listen, I ultimately did receive financial records, some from the town, okay? I did. But this was the initial response that I got. Here I am asking for financial records in the water district and annual financial reports. I kind of made a mistake there. I said quarterly financial reports. I'm learning kind of as I go too. Anyhow, I was told to go to Open Book New York. So instead of giving me these documents, I was told where I could go to get these documents. And that's okay, because Open Book New York was a wealth of information, and I learned a ton of stuff through my hours of time on Open Books. Come on, got to be kidding me. I'm working on it. Okay, let me just make sure. Okay, this computer's junk too. So that doesn't help. Let me move me. All right, so we're going to go through some data analysis now. This is going to get a little boring. Bear with me. I know I'm long-winded. Hang in there. All right, data analysis of the water usage of the two unique entities under consideration. So let's look at how much water is used in the Pines compared to how much water is used at Otisega. Okay, here we are. So this chart, I made this chart and I took it from the data provided to me by the town. That data is available on the website that I originally showed you. This is pretty self-explanatory. You're going to see the years. You're going to see that the Pines has one account and Otisega has 3 accounts. So Otisega, each account corresponds to 1 water meter. So Otisega has 3 water meters. The account numbers are there for everybody. You can see that I've color coded these, and to get the total for Otisega, I added all 3 of the accounts. These are annual usages. All right. So in these columns, the water you see used is what's being used annually. I do want to point out that in the year 2021, everybody on these 4 accounts, so the 1 account of the Pines and the 3 accounts of Otisega, the bill for, I believe it was dated February 28th, 2021, it's there twice. So it's listed there 2 times. And I don't know why. I don't know if if there's a reasonable explanation for that. Originally, as I looked at it, it does look like that amount got billed twice. Well, you know what? I can't say that because I wasn't comparing the bills. I wasn't cross-referencing the bill to the usage. So I probably shouldn't say that. But I will point out that the usage and the charge, the usage was there 2 times. So there was a duplicate usage there for everybody in that 2021 first quarter. All right, so let's go on and look at what I think is the most representative of all of this information, and that would be year 2024. So I'm going to just assume that 2024 is the most representative because all the previous years would have been estimated years because the water meters were just not there doing what they were supposed to do. So by 2024, the water meters had been installed mid 2023. So by 2024, these should all be actual meter based on actual meter readings, I would assume. So you can look in 2024 and see the Pines usage. Then you can see the total Otisega usage. And then if you look at the last column, you can see that the Pines used 3 million more gallons of water than Otisega did. So that's just, it's again, I'm not trying to say anything against the Pines here. What I am trying to say is that it's just strange that a high usage user gets a discount approved and a seasonal low usage user does not. All right, let's continue onward. I press back and it goes forward. I give up on these computers. All right, so this here is a copy of or a screenshot of the Pines bill. And we know from information that Mr. Ullman provided to the board in November of 2023 that Otisega's bills in 2021 and 2022 were approximately in the $5,000 to $6,000 range. And so while we're not completely comparing apples to apples here because the years are off, I think we're still getting, it's still going to make the point. Let's look at the Pines bill. So the account number 0047 confirms that this is the Pines. And let's look at 2023. What you're going to see here is a billing and then a credit, a billing, then a credit, a billing, then a credit. So just so you can understand all these numbers. So if you add up all the bills, all the quarterly bills for 2023, you get $8,518. If you add up all the bills for the Pines, the quarterly bills for 2024, you get $8,600. So according to the way the current law is written and applied, the Pines is going to continue paying a special rate. So this isn't probably going to change too much for them. Otisega, on the other hand, their annual bills are going to reach close to $30,000 now. They will be getting a per unit quarterly charge for every unit, every campsite, every motel room, every building, every campsite, every motel room is going to be an individual unit that will be charged the, $51 per quarter rate plus usage. And if you take a calculator and do a little, plugging it in, you're going to come up with a number around $30,000. Okay. Come on. What did I do? Mm, I jumped way ahead. Um, where am I? Okay. All right. Okay. Here, sorry about that. Like I said, technology and I are not on friendly terms. So let's move now into data analysis. We just finished data analysis of water usage. Now let's look at data analysis of the water district's finances. This is all obtained through Open Book New York and from documents received from the Town of Machias clerk and bookkeeper. Um, what I did is I took these documents, which are very cumbersome, and I made charts and graphs to try to summarize data. All of the primary source information is available on the website that I showed you earlier. Okay, so as I went through Open Books New York, I became concerned. And as I'm looking at the information, I'm thinking to myself, one of three things has to be true. Either I did not really understand what I was looking at or how to interpret these records. So maybe I just don't know what I'm doing. Okay, that's a possibility. Then the second possibility is that the Machias Water Department is not as distressed as claimed. And then the next possibility could be that the information provided to the state comptroller by the town's bookkeeper and clerk wasn't accurate. So something has to be true here. Either I don't know what I'm doing, the financial state of the water department isn't as distressed as we've been led to believe, or the numbers that are being submitted are not accurate. So I contacted the clerk to talk about this. I let her know, I showed her a chart that I had made. That chart that I made wasn't accurate. She did help me to see that original chart that I made had excluded some of the expenditures for the water district. So I was grateful to her for that, that I was able, because I just want the truth, you guys. I'm not looking to be a jerk to the town. I just want to know what is true. So anyhow, I contacted Rebecca at the beginning of July with the information that was concerning to me. And she said that she'd get back. She'd talk to the bookkeeper. She'd get back to me. They provided information. That information that they provided did help me to see that I had overstated what I thought was a surplus revenue. And I'm grateful to know that, because again, I just want to know what is true, what is accurate. So I started from scratch. I went through the books data, and I went through the data that I got from the town. The numbers matched. I learned more as I was going about the budget lines and what belonged where. And as I did that, I was able to come up with this document here, or this chart here. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to ignore these last two columns for right now. And I want you to focus on this column right here. It says, I can't see what it says because I've got this. I'm going to press this and hope that I don't mess everything up. Can you please go away? Share, go up there. That's not what I wanted. Okay, I give up. No, where are you going? Okay, come back. Okay, let me see if I can move this. No. I've got what's happening to me is I've got a taskbar that's covering up I don't think you guys see it. But it's covering up my columns, the headings on it. So I'm going to do the best I can here. All right, so ignore the last two columns for right now and look at this column right here. This column right here, notice that this is all done by years. So we started at 2013, going all the way to 2024. We're going to have water revenue in this column. That's what's the money coming in a year. Here we've got water expenditures. This is money going out. And what it's going out for is all listed here. And then there's other expenditures related to water. What's going out here? This is going to be like your employee benefits stuff here, okay, for the water operator. So these two columns here are expenditures. This is revenue. we are going to get this column right here by subtracting the total expenditures from the total revenue. All right, so when we subtract, are you kidding? Come on. When we subtract the expenditures each year from the revenue each year, you're going to notice in this column that everything's in the black except for these 2 years here, 21 and 22. All right. In other words, the money coming in these years to the water department exceeds the money going out. Now, when you consider debt service, it doesn't look great. I agree. Okay. So, debt service, you're paying off your loans with principal and interest. So here's your debt service, which must have been some capital project. Apparently, that has been now paid off since 2021. So you can see down here, things are getting better now that the debt service is done there. But yeah, it's true that these numbers here, they're not great numbers. They're not. Okay. There is like this year here, 2021, it's pretty bad, right? But come on, you got to be kidding me. But when you look at the overall situation, come down to the very bottom, summary total. So down here, when the debt service is excluded and all you're doing is you're subtracting expenditures from revenues over these 11 years, there's a surplus of 466,000. Okay. And then if you come over and you include the debt service, there's still a surplus these 11 years. Still, if you're looking at these 11 years, overall, the total, there is still a surplus of $185,576. Now, I know it's more complicated than that. And I would love to have the town officials in the water department, school me on this a little bit. All I'm doing here is just looking at the raw data. And what I'm seeing is that the distress we're told that this district is in is, it's not great, but I don't know if it's as horrible as we have been led to believe. All right. Okay. This one here, again, we're analyzing the financial data of the Town of Machias Water Department now. So what we've got here is fund balances. There's certain things here that I'm not going to be very good at explaining, particularly deferred outflows and deferred inflows and things like that. I'm not going to pretend that I'm an accountant, okay? I'm just going to use some common sense and talk to you guys. This would be fund balance stuff. Basically, think of this. The page we were just looking at would be money coming in, money going out, your budget. This stuff here, you want to think about, okay, what's in the bank when you go and you look at your checking account, okay, or your savings account. These are balance sheet numbers, fund balance numbers, all right? So think more like that. This is like your savings account. So if you look at the balance sheet, again, we're going to have the years here, and then here, this column here is going to be total assets. So this is going to be, the money that's in the checking account or in the savings account. Now, some of it, this deferred outflow stuff, has to do with the fact that some of it isn't necessarily available that year, but it still exists. Okay, I guess it's the best way to explain it. So this is assets. It's the money in the account. Here are liabilities. This is money that's going to be coming out. All right, this is going to be going. And then this is going to be the balance sheet, the balance sheet fund. Now, over here, I wish I could explain this. I've got to learn how to understand all of this. You're going to notice that this number here always matches this number here. Okay. There's complicated things that I don't necessarily always understand involved here on timing of when funds are available, of when, it's kind of like, you're getting your tax refund, but it hasn't actually arrived yet, sort of stuff. So you can't use it, but you know that it's there, sort of thing. That's the best I'm going to be able to do with this right now. But you guys feel free to do something with this information. You're going to see the bottom line. The bottom line of all of this is there are no red numbers on this document, on this chart. Everything is in the black. Everything is positive. So in 2013, okay, assets, liabilities, um, fund, this is going to end up being, I guess I'll look at this and I think I feel more comfortable with this than I do with this. If you look at the fund balance and you just kind of think of this as like what's in your checking account, what's in your savings account, I mean, notice, come on. Notice, this is not good here, 2015. And even these are low, but that's probably, they're still paying on that debt service here. But you're going to see that things are getting better. And now that the debt service is gone, so the debt service is gone right around here. Notice what we have here. That's not an unhealthy fund balance, I don't think. I mean, I'm not a town official, but that seems like it's not a bad fund balance. You guys, if anybody wants to disagree, if anybody wants to teach me how to think about this or understand this, I am open to it. All right, let's go on. Before I go on, I'll just say my bottom line here is that this is not showing a department, a district that's in the hole, that's in red. Okay. All right. Just an interesting other thing I want to point out here is ARPA funds. So this is blurry. Sorry. It's a screenshot from an official PDF file that's available on on one of the New York State websites. Anyhow, I did a little research to find out how much ARPA, that's the American Rescue Plan Act. It would have been part of the COVID stuff that Machias got. So according to New York State official disbursement list, what happened is the federal government funds the ARPA, it goes to Albany, and then the local municipalities apply for it through Albany. It passed through Albany before it came to the municipalities. So Machias did apply for it. I'm sure every single local municipality did. And let's see, what did they get? In the initial summer payment in 2021, they got $115,936. And then in a reallocation, they got, okay, a little more, 473 more. And then in summer 2022, they got another payment of $116,409. So their total allocation for ARPA money was $232,819.81. So I haven't researched the specifics of what Machias did with the ARPA funds, like what is the line by line way that the ARPA money was spent. I'm thinking, and from some of the notes that the town bookkeeper shared, I think that most of this money probably went into the water district's meter replacement. Again, I'm not completely sure, but what I'll show you is this is a screenshot of the of bookkeeper notes. So right here, not the red, but this other stuff. This is from a document that Rebecca sent to me in response to a FOIL, and it was titled Bookkeeper Notes. And so it says ARPA funds. Thanks to the clerk for applying for these funds, the town was able to use them for water fund repairs and meters. These expenditures were expected to come from the fund directly without borrowing from the general fund to help cover them. So it appears that the ARPA funds were spent in the water district on well house repairs, engineering, meters, and there's your total, $220,019.26. So, oh, there is no difference. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to fix this right here. The ARPA funds would have been, okay, the ARPA funds would have been sufficient to cover this total. So my guess here is that the ARPA funds were used for all of this work in the water district. So, $220,000 going into this district over the last couple of years. I guess I'm feeling a little less like this district is in financial distress. Like if it's in financial distress, then there's a problem. Like, why is it in financial distress? This is a significant amount of money. And we've looked at the fund balances and we've looked at the revenues and the expenditures. So I I guess what I'm saying is it doesn't appear to me like this is a district in distress. And if it is, why? Um, okay, let's go on. I think I'm almost done here. I'm sure you'll be happy about that. All right, yep, this is my last slide. So I leave you with these lingering questions. The data appears to show that the water department is not in the hole and limping along. Again, unless I am misunderstanding something here, that's what I'm seeing. So if that's the case, why do town officials keep saying that it is? You know, all this ARPA money, I don't, it does not look to me like they're in the hole and limping along. And it also looks like now that the debt service has been paid down, that that fund balance is like it's jumped substantially over the last 2 years. Um, so another lingering question, is the water district being managed properly? Are the books accurate? Has there been follow up from the 2021 audit? Like, where does this stand? So I'm not going to get into it too much. The 2021 audit had to do specifically with inter fund transfers. So money being moved from one fund to another and things being moved around without having accurate records to demonstrate how the funds were moved. So check that out. That's certainly potentially related here somehow. Where do we stand with this? And then finally, what is really happening? What's the truth? I just want to know what's the truth? What is really going on? Is there corruption? Is there incompetence? Or could it be that I am simply not interpreting the data properly? So, one of these three things, it appears to me, has to be the case. And so, let me know what you think. All right, I am going to sign off. I know this is long. I always talk too much, um, but I'm going to try to figure out how to get out of here. All right, everybody. I will turn this into a YouTube video and post it. Bye bye.